Welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast, where we empower Masters athletes to reach their full potential. Join us as we delve into the world of CrossFit and showcase the strength, resilience, and determination of Masters athletes, because we love this sport. I'm JASONGRUBB. I'm here with Rick Stevenson, and we just completed the quarterfinals weekend for the age groups.
Hello, Jason. Back for another week. Here we go again.
Here we go. How are you feeling?
I'm sore. I think anybody who was out there that did these can say the same thing today, day after.
I'm not sure if I've been this sore after a qualifier weekend in CrossFit history. My legs are so incredibly sore and in very acute areas, specific areas of my quads from thrusters, my glutes from walking lunges, my hamstrings from shuttle runs, right?
Shuttle runs
it's
for
very
days.
Sore. Oh,
shuttle
brutal.
runs for days. We'll get into this more, but I do have to say, we were talking about what we may see at the next stage if, everything gets validated, and it's all preliminary results now. But I really don't think they'll bring shuttle runs back. I could be wrong, but I think it would be crazy if they did that.
I would give anything to not do those for a while. But what I find is generally as I feel like a fairly fit human being, I think that I'm good at burpees and I think I'm good at shuttle runs until I'm tested. And then I realize I'm just no good at burpees and I'm really not that good at shuttle runs because they kill me. My heart rate on event number 3, whichever, we'll get to that. Yeah. But my heart rate went super high immediately. And because of those shuttle runs, it stayed higher than I wanted it to be the entire time. It was absolute mayhem is what I might call that workout.
Well, but the soreness, I think the soreness comes about from the intensity more than anything else, because there's nothing that we really did this weekend that we don't train or practice for, but it's replicating the intensity. And I think that's why today, my quads are just sore to the touch, all around. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's not much. I have a massage gun, and that is just not getting out today. It's just too much.
Oh yeah,
it's just too painful. My body doesn't need that. Too painful. Hot showers are in it for me. If I had a sauna, I would do that. But so quarterfinals were this weekend, and the news and updates, some information we learned as those quarterfinals were released, and after it's all done, you got some data about the Masters athletes that were able to do this. What was some of the data that you discovered?
Main Site today put up a nice chart for both men and women. This was for the not who all participated this weekend, but it was the number of Masters that are quarterfinal eligible. So that's really all they could do is say, okay, how many that were eligible last year against how many in each division were eligible this year. They broke them out by age group, by female, by male, and the total brings to about a 14% increase year over year. And that just is a testament to how many more people signed up for the Open that then became quarterfinal eligible. It'll be interesting if they roll out some stats, seeing how many people, both male and female, entered all 5 scores and can contrast that. But then they broke it out even further. They like to do this. The numbers aren't very large, though, so I'm almost wondering why they do it. How many past games athletes year over year, past Masters podiumers, past Masters champions, past games individuals. So you see it really broken out by age group all the way down. And then what's interesting here is they give you the average age for each of the age groups of those participating. And as you would expect, it's within 2 years of each of the earliest age groups. So as you age through the age group, so say you're a female 35 to 39, the average age is 36.8 this year.
Interesting.
So those ladies that are 38, 39, there's not enough of them to bring the average up. It's heavily skewed towards you turning that first age of the age group and maybe the next year after. That's to a T per age group for all males and females. Pretty interesting.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that has, guys like us thinking, what do we do in the latter part of our age groups? How do we approach that latter part? When I'm 40 48 and 49, what's the right path to choose there? As a fairly successful athlete, does it make sense to dial back, retool, rebuild the engine a bit in order to hit 50 hard? Or do you just carry the momentum? Like, I know that that's a perplexing question that I have for myself. I know you're still a year younger in your age group than I am, but I know that goes through your head sometimes, doesn't it?
I think a lot of that comes down to the type of athlete that you are, too. And that's a question that, each person is going to have to answer themselves. There are unicorns in the sport that are able to be competitive in the latter half of their age group time. And then there are others where there was a Ben Bergeron podcast a number of years ago, but it's specifically geared to masters athletes. It's really worth a listen, and how he frames the 4-year, 5-year window of the hyper competitiveness of your first few years in the sport, in the age group window, and then kind of dialing it back, working on things that you said like you would need to, that you want to address, and then being ready to enjoy it again if you feel like competing and you're healthy enough to compete, to go at it hard as soon as you age up into the next window. So I'd encourage that listen too. It's a really good one. It's
a great one, and that it's stuck with me. It's probably one of those podcasts that just, when it came out, it was finally someone's talking about masters, and we, at least those of us that were really paying attention at the time, we gobbled that up, and it just made sense, this cycle. I thought that was really interesting. On the standards side of things, one of the things that I found interesting for us is that the standards, I think, were pretty clear. I know that for me, before I do any of the events, I am studying as much as I can the workout standards, that entire document, to make sure that I know that what I'm doing is what CrossFit wants me to do for this particular test. And this was the first year for me where I did quarterfinals with a larger group of people. I did it at Mayhem, and I'm historically used to doing it in my own gym or in my own space where it's just me. And so I can set up the space exactly the way that it's laid out. It's just absolute, there's no deviation whatsoever. I'm not even taking leeway. If the picture has it this way, that's the way I'm doing it. And at Mayhem, I had to navigate through different heats of people going. And so I was studying the standards very, very closely. And I didn't see anything in there that was really ambiguous. I don't think. No. There was no V-ups, having your feet together, or what is a foot versus an ankle versus a toe. What do you have to touch? The only one I saw in there that was slightly unique was thumbs around the barbell on bench press, which is a curious one. I'm not sure what the purpose of that would be. When we're doing bar muscle ups, they're not requiring us to have our thumbs around the bar on muscle ups, so if it's a safety thing, there's that. But that, I didn't see any other standards that were really a deviation from anything that we've normally done. Did you see anything that was curious?
For this weekend, I'll say no, but only because we saw wall-facing handstand push-ups in the individuals. And that was, I think we all paid attention to that, and that garnered all kinds of attention and discussion and uproar. But you couldn't cartwheel in, and where your hands had to be placed, and what constituted a good, feet width and things like that. Because I think we were familiar enough with it. Looks like they went copy-paste right into our tests that I don't think it surprised us. And then the rest of the things were, we benched last year in semifinals, so the 40 inches was not a surprise, and everybody knows how to shuttle run properly now. And a lot of other movements, what a bar muscle up is, what the standards are. It was maybe, and we'll get into maybe how they put everything together was kind of curious at times, but the movement outside of the movements, outside of the wall facing handstand push-ups, because we had just been exposed to it, nothing really surprised me.
And at this point, we've seen some movement in the leaderboard just a bit. I know that you and I have both had our workouts 2A and 2B videos cleared by CrossFit or approved by CrossFit. So we're quote unquote in the clear with at least 2 of our 5 scores. Right. That's always a good feeling when you get that email and you open it, you hold your breath for a second, you're like, oh, okay. Actually, I got 2 separate approvals on workout 2A and 2B, so maybe 2 sets of eyes made sure. That's great.
I have a friend who received the email 3 times, and he was wondering, have you gotten those 3 too? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I only got 1, so I'm sorry.
I mean, they're being diligent as possible on this, but I know a couple of people in the 40 to 44-year-old age group. I don't know outside of that, have just been I've been paying attention to the scores, but I know that a couple have gotten big hits on box jumps. So that is one of those movements that they seem to be really looking at. And I did the judges course this year because we were going to potentially be judging each other a little bit at Mayhem with the number of people that were there. So we had to have the judges courses done, and I did it Thursday. Because, why not do it the day before it's due? And we did see box jumps there, and box jumps are a slightly tougher standard to judge, getting up on that box and extending the hips. But in the judging video, it was one of the ones where, those infamous judging ones where you have to count the no reps or count the good reps, and you do it with a team of people. How many reps did you see? How many reps did you see? And you average them together. And then you finally get past that spot. But I know that there were a couple of tremendous athletes that actually had their scores significantly penalized for not opening the hips on box jumps. Have you seen anything else out there yet? Still early.
I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she was letting me know that her leaderboard was already moving around, as evidenced by some penalties being assessed without penalties being revealed yet. So they're looking at it, and I know that lady's age category. I certainly know ours has been moving around. I did see on the site today, they said the leaderboard should be finalized by the 14th of April, which is, what is that, next Friday?
It's a long time.
It's a ways to go.
Yes.
So we've got some time. So expect a lot of refreshing your emails until then.
Refreshing emails and refreshing the leaderboard. I think that you and I are in a good spot. I also feel like, I try to meet the movement standards as clear as day within everything that I can, and anything outside of that I think is out of our hands, but we do our best. This isn't our first rodeo. Right?
Exactly.
Well, I think that we should, if it's time, should we talk about these workouts? Is it too soon? Is it too traumatic? Or is it time to
okay, I did mine, so that's quite all right.
I still have mental scar tissue from almost all of them, honestly. So event 1, when I saw that one was released, it was by far my favorite workout on paper. I have worked on walking lunges, so it had walking lunges with the dumbbells at our side, walking lunges with the dumbbells in the front rack position, and then in the overhead position, and that was combined with 60 toes to bar cumulatively, 30 chest to bar altogether, and 10 bar muscle ups, and I loved it. Individually, those movements are all really good for me. I've been working on lunges a lot, so I've improved that ability. That was, I would say, a weakness last year. And toes to bar, chest to bar, muscle ups, those are wheelhouse movements for me. So I was really excited to do event 1. I didn't do it first. I will say that I did event 2A and 2B first, but since we're just going to do this in order, I'm just going to say event 1 was a shock to the system. Yeah. When I was warming up for it, I did a little mini practice round, maybe 3 or 4 of each movement. And my heart rate was through the roof from the warm-up round. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a push-pull style workout. And obviously, we all know that it's a grippy workout. We're holding on to something the entire time. So I was cognizant of that. I had a plan for how I was going to manage my grip. And I'll just say that, after the fact, I dropped the dumbbells at every 25-foot segment.
I'm glad,
I set them down.
Glad you said that.
Around,
every time, same thing. I don't think it was worth holding on to for the entirety of the 50 feet. I don't think you were going to pick up that much time in a workout that had that long of a cap. I think that just made sense.
And then for me, and I imagine for you, when we were working our way through the toes to bar and then eventually the chest to bar, it was right around the time that the chest to bar was happening where I felt my heart rate skyrocket. Mm-hmm. This was a surprise to me. I didn't expect it to be quite that high. And then getting to the bar muscle ups, wow, that was a max effort bar muscle ups. Was that your experience?
If you know me, I don't have a lot of things that I do really well, but muscle ups, both ring and bar, are some things that I do excel at. There aren't many, trust. But I think those were the 10 hardest bar muscle ups I've done in a competition ever. I couldn't stand up. And then when I stood up, I couldn't do more than 3 at a time. I thought I was wasting everything away by and everybody's yelling at me, and I know they wanted me to move. Grip was gone, and I had redlined at that point. I was like, this is ridiculous. There are just 10 of them. There's no excuse for that. But It was the
I
combination. It
took,
was it was a totality of
yeah.
everything. It just hit me.
It really was. It was this cumulative effect, and that's the type of workout that it was. And that's where I was a little bit surprised. I didn't expect to feel so terrible at those bar muscle ups, and I broke up my first set at 5. I was planning maybe 6 and 4, but I got to 5. I was like, I need a break, and I was very concerned, and I really wanted to hit that last set of 5. I didn't want the time to tick. I would say the last 3 bar muscle ups were as hard of an effort as the max clean was if I had to touch and go 3 of those. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
effort.
Like I don't want to
So,
slide. I don't want
yeah.
to fly off the bar. Like I was worried I couldn't hold on, and I've never really flown off or dropped in an unsafe manner off a bar from a bar muscle up. But I was seriously concerned about that. That's ridiculous. That was a good test.
It
It
was a
was a good
gamble.
test. It was.
It's
It
fun.
was. I think it was written poorly in that it looked like it was half a page long to describe it,
Mm,
but it was a
mm.
good test. I think it was fair.
Yeah, I absolutely misread it the first time I looked at it. I thought it was 3 sets of toes to bar, 2 sets of chest to bar, and 2 sets of muscle ups.
Yeah.
And that makes no sense. Like artistically, that makes no sense. But I read it that way, and then someone had to tell me, no, it's only 1 set of bar muscle ups. And in my mind, I was like, oh, that's great. That's going to be so easy.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was not at
Well
all.
done. Well done by
And
CrossFit on that one.
well done. Yes.
We'll reserve judgment for some others, but yeah, I think that this one they nailed that test.
Out of the park, knocked it out of the park. It was, I would say, the overall theme of these workouts to me is that they were just a bit more challenging for a quarterfinals than I would have anticipated. I remember last year's quarterfinals were very challenging, I guess, but I don't remember having this feeling of like, wow, these are really big hills to climb on every workout. But that was my general feeling. Why don't you take event 2?
Okay.
Walk us through that
Well,
one.
event 2, the 2-parter, 2A and 2B. So we knew it was going to be, since it was due Saturday at noon Pacific or 3 Eastern. By the time you submitted those scores, you were going to have 60% of your work done. It was an AMRAP of 6 wall-facing handstand push-ups, which I think it was a little bit of a surprise that we got them, but at least we'd been exposed to them. 9 GHD sit-ups and 12 box jumps to a high box, 30 inches for the men and 24 inches for the ladies. So 10 minutes of 6, 9, 12, as fast as you could go back and forth. And then starting at 10 minutes to 15 minutes, you had 5 minutes to establish a 1 rep max clean. They were clear in the standards. On the clean, you could have a pit crew changing your weights. So that was good. We had already the standards laid out for the wall-facing handstand push-ups, so we knew what to expect. It was a matter of managing shoulder fatigue, which you managed a lot better than I did. But that one tripped up a lot of people on me. I think that's, the shot's been fired by Adrian in what he wants us to all consider, and that's just not in the open, but in almost all competitive athletes that use this methodology as a sport, be ready to be tested in various different ways. And the GHDs, pretty straightforward standard there. And box jumps, full hip extension. And I think you talked about it, but the judging for the box jumps is similar for them judging the individual athletes on full hip extension for their front squats. Because if you look through the penalties that they released, a lot of them, and we talked about it last week, a lot of them were not reaching full hip extension, and they dinged a lot of athletes for that. So I fear that that's going to be for the box jumps there. But it was a quick 10 minutes. The way they had you set it up with the various feet between each element. I was working right next to my training partner who is in 35-39 age category, and my capacity, I broke 3 and 3 on those handstand push-ups each time. He did not. He took off like crazy, and it was a blur. I was like, I have no idea what round I'm on. I don't know what round he's on. He's moving a hell of a lot faster than I am, and this is really frustrating. But the got through it, and the clean was the clean. I'm surprised myself a little bit. I did not hit a PR, but it was a successful. Picked up the bar with about 5 seconds remaining. We read the rules closely. As long as you had initiated the lift before time expired, it was a good lift. Hit that clean pretty nicely, and I was happy with that overall.
I do want to see that video. You offered that to but before we started the show, did you squat clean it or did you power clean that last one?
Oh, I squat cleaned everyone but the first. Yeah,
Yep.
I
Makes
had to.
sense.
I
Makes
had to.
sense.
I was so tired at that
Yep.
point. But I like lifting heavy
Yeah,
after a workout like that.
I like that too. And I find that it feels like across the board, there are PRs that people hit when you do something so challenging beforehand. I think about the thruster workout in the open. I hit a PR on my thruster, one rep max thruster, and that was after such a grueling event. So there must be something that's very interesting about the human body when we combine something like that. And also in a test where it feels like it's life and death. So we're just going to give it all we got. But I do like that. And I went into that AMRAP with the intention of moving quickly through transitions. For me, I'm decent. I have decent shoulder stamina, pretty confident in the wall-facing handstand push-ups. I wasn't sure how many rounds I would be able to get through the allotted time. I just wasn't sure how quickly the box jumps might fall apart. Was there any part of this that was just going to become really challenging? So I imagined I'd be somewhere in the 6-round range. So that's going to be like 36 plus or minus handstand push-ups. I felt like with the GHD and the box jumps, I was going to get sufficient rest for the handstand push-ups for my own capacity. But my focus was moving quickly with intent and purpose on the transitions, thinking about how many transitions there were from getting up on the handstands, coming down into the GHD, touching the pads, getting into that rhythm, getting out, up onto the box, then back. It was a lot of transitioning. If you were slow on transitions, you could lose seconds, big time. And I found when it was all said and done, it was a box jump workout for me. I was lit on these box jumps in trying to keep them moving at a fast pace. It's a tall box for me, a short, heavy guy. So it's just a very cardiovascular workout. Box jumps lit me up on this thing.
And I'm assuming you stepped down, you didn't rebound?
Interesting. I had a plan to step down, and then Rich Froning went first. And so I watched his technique of a hop down, hop up. Not a strike and go, but it was a hop down and hop up. Rick, it's okay. It's just hop downs. I know you get angry.
Yeah.
I know that's your dog. I'm just teasing.
He does. He values his Achilles like I value my Achilles.
I understand. And I'm not going to strike and go that ever out of 30-inch box, and probably not even out of 24-inch box anymore, especially with shuttle runs the next day. But I did hop off, land, and jump. And it was just a rhythm to it that I went with. But in doing that, as opposed to the step downs, I was definitely increasing the heart rate by moving.
That's
that
the
way.
Risk you run when you increase the cadence of the box jumps. It just being a high box, 30 and 24, both males and females, that's a lot to cycle faster. It took up, obviously, with the 12 reps of the box jumps, that was taking up more time than you thought I thought going into it would. So
every time it was almost a frustrating amount of time. I get to 6 box jumps and just think, man, this is taking me forever to get through these. I just want to get going, but I can't go faster than this cadence without strike and go, and I'm not going to do that.
If you look at the numbers, if you made it through 5 rounds or more, the irony, I forgot who said this today. I think I read it somewhere, that they thought the irony was 5 rounds or more of this workout, we ended up doing more handstand push-ups, wall-facing handstand push-ups than the individual athletes did. Now they had 21 at the end altogether, and we had breaks in between, but there was a larger number, especially for some of those unnamed athletes who really got deep into this workout. That was a lot. It was a lot of stress on the shoulders for the
really
first time being introduced in a competition for age group athletes.
And thinking about event 1 and 2, so we have to do these 2 events in the first day. I mean, the first 2 days, these have to get done. And I would say that the lunges and, holding those dumbbells overhead, which is the most taxing lunge walk of all, if you did event 1 before event 2, event 1 would definitely impact event 2. But then if you did event 2 before event 1, all of those handstand push-ups could definitely affect your pushing strength overhead and even on the bar muscle. So it was a really interesting process. I'm the kind of guy that wants to get both of the tests done on the first day so that when I wake up the next morning, I could retest if there's something catastrophic. But I go to bed knowing that I've got 2 events done, and that's always my plan. And after I finished event 2A and 2B that we kicked off on Friday late afternoon, I finished that up and I was pretty tired, pretty spent, and just thought there's no way that I could do another event right now. So that means I've got to wake up tomorrow morning and hit event 1, making sure that it gets done correctly. I don't have to repeat it all within a specific time frame. And that's a little more anxiety producing for me, but I think looking back on it, it was a much better strategy. There was just no way that I was going to be done with this whole event by Saturday afternoon. So, and thinking about event 3 and 4, again, some people chose to do event 3 Saturday morning and then event 1 Saturday midday just before the cutoff. I saw that happen, and that was just not something I wanted to do. So,
we took Saturday,
right.
Sadness with you, but also the anxiety of knowing get up Sunday morning, and we had no choice. The 4 that we had to execute. There was. I still would like to be done. I've never been done a day prior in any of these online formats. Maybe next time.
I've always been done a day prior. I've never done one the morning of. So we'll talk about event 4 because that was the high stress. That was looming over us the entire time. Yeah. But to talk about event 3, all right. So event 3, we've got shuttle runs. And then, so let's move on to event 4. I don't even want to talk about it.
Start the masters arguing and complaining about.
Oh my God. Who, I mean, I would like to have Boz back on, and I just want to say, listen, man, did you test this yourself? Because only a crazy person would do. No, not really. I don't mean that. I think it was a tremendously challenging test. The shuttle runs, going down and back 50 times. If that was just the buy-in, and then we had to do rope climb, bench press, rope climb, and then done, that would have been challenging in and of itself. I would have been surprised at how challenging that was. But no, we finished it off with a buy-in or a buyout of 50 shuttle runs. So it was 50 shuttle runs at the beginning, at the end, and in between, we had 7 rope climbs, 25 bench press at 185 pounds for men, 125 pounds for women, and 7 rope climbs. So my experience was this. It was 3, 2, 1, go. I mentioned this earlier. Let's start running. And I could not find a rhythm for probably the first 15 or so shuttle runs. I was turning so that I was facing the same direction. I didn't want to get dizzy. I wasn't spinning while I was doing it. But somehow I was pivoting on my left leg only. Somehow.
That's good.
And I didn't realize that until my left leg was letting me know that it was going to be dramatically overused. So I had to adjust and figure it out. But I just never really found a great rhythm. But I got through the 50. Okay, that's fine. Got on the rope. I found, strangely, and maybe it's the cumulative effect of event 1 with the lunges, event 2 with all the box jumps, maybe even the clean, the buy-in of 50 shuttle runs, but I had a hard time gripping my feet on the rope climbs. And I'm really good at rope climbs, but I could not grip my feet very well for whatever reason. So I would say out of the total of 14 rope climbs altogether, I probably had to take, I'm typically a 2-pull person. I took 3 pulls probably 5 times. And every time I did, I just felt the clock ticking and my biceps turning into flames. So those were the rope climbs. They weren't comfortable rope climbs for me at all. It was definitely doable. I found a pace. I kind of held a slow, steady pace on those. And on bench press, I've done a lot of bench press work over the last year since we saw that in our semifinals last year. My bench press was something like 9.655 or 9.664, something like that. But it felt good. Bench press was not my biggest concern. It was the fact that we had 100 shuttle runs, and I was really nervous while I was doing them that the rest of the 45 to 49-year-old males were lapping me and lapping me and lapping me. I felt like a snail on those things. I got it done. It's a top 20 score, but I know that all of us on that were just felt uncomfortable, incredibly uncomfortable. That was my experience. That I will say this last thing about event number 3. I was dead. I laid on the ground. I would say that I was more spent and more beat and less recovered from event 3 than event 4. Which event 4 is just the death of all workouts. But event 3 really put me into a deep recovery deficit.
How about the first 10 shuttle runs the second time through?
Death. Pure
I
death.
know I wasn't walking, and I watched my video, but it sure felt, I was like, everybody kept yelling, okay, find your rhythm, just kind of settle in. I'm like, how much more settling in I'm just kind of crawling along the first. It's funny you said that about the rope climbs, but I felt on my second set of 7, the only thing saving me were my feet and my grip. I
Mm,
had nothing
mm.
left to pull because the bench, unlike you, I broke the bench into smaller sets right out of the gate, and then I reduced myself to singles. I was like, "Oh, this is killing me!" But I had nothing to pull, so my grip on the rope felt like okay, I could then shuffle up the rope a little bit better than if I were just relying on just kind of hanging there with that dead man's pull that we've all gone through.
Yeah.
It would that was you knew that was going to be the meat of the workout, even though 50 shuttle runs at the end was ridiculously boring. And I listened to my judge, and he's like 21 back, 22, and I'm like, oh my god, this event is never going to end. I am dying
Yep.
here, and I'm only on early 20s. This at least. When you got to 40, I was like, okay, try to pick up the pace now.
Yes.
Okay, the light is at the end of the
Yeah.
tunnel, but 1 through 40 took forever. It was crazy.
It's reminiscent of a qualifier workout that we did in 2019 that was 80 bar facing burpees and a 4K row.
Yep.
That was the age group qualifier that year. And that when you're doing 80 bar facing burpees, you're so hopeless until you get to like 70.
Yes.
And then, oh, okay, we're about there. And then you get on a rower, and it was almost like the second set of shuttle runs. You got on the rower and you were pulling, and you just couldn't believe how tired you were. And you have 4,000
right.
meters
Not
to
a
go.
1K, not a 2K. You got
No.
4K to go. That was an ugly event too. Oh,
So they threw out this test, and I do love running. I mean, I love running. I love running events. I don't love pivoting
no,
200 times in a
but
run.
that's the only way you can
But
test it in an online environment.
that's it.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if it's at the games or Legends, where there were runners or any of the other, Masters Fitness Collective we ran outside. You will be tested in an in-person event nowadays with some type of running. It's expected. You could be carrying heavy objects. It could be a sprint, or it could be a long distance. I think he
Yep.
just wants it to trickle down into running is such a key component of your fitness. How do we best fit that into a video screen? And unfortunately, we all have to pivot
Yeah.
way too many times.
Well, there's the other elements of this shuttle run where we're running briefly in the shuttle run. It's a brief run, and then there's a pivot, the turn, which is part of kind of having some agility and balance. Touching the floor has us folding down to the ground and then having to have a unilateral push off of a leg. I think that shuttle runs are an incredible tool for fitness. I'm not saying I like them or I approve of them in any way, but I get the fitness element of it. And they do require us to be careful and be smart and warm up really well. I mean, a lot of Achilles tendons can get snapped on shuttle runs, but it put us into a position where anybody can do 10 shuttle runs, anybody can do 10 burpees, but when you do 100 shuttle runs, it's really testing your entire capacity for movement. Just like 100 burpees is a true test of actual capacity. I respect the workout. I respect the way it was put together. It was incredibly
it was ridiculously boring. Yeah,
but I'm okay with boring. Like, I don't care. I don't want to do it,
right.
but I don't care if I'm bored. There's other workouts that I do that are super boring. Like zone 2 training is probably the most boring type of training that I do. That's training.
Right.
It's not competing. And I'm always on my phone or listening to a podcast. If the shuttle runs would have been better if I had this podcast. If I had our podcast on, the shuttle runs would have been great. So if you are out there, if you'd like to test this workout, make sure you get the shuttle runs done before we're done with this podcast.
We encourage you to do that.
All right, Rick, we encourage it. This episode is sponsored by event number 3 from the Age Group Quarterfinals.
Event 4.
All right, event 4. Tell us about it.
Close. I think a lot of people guessed this one. I ended up going with the overhead squats, but the rep scheme we did get. Repeat of open workout 15.5. If you've been in CrossFit for that many years, you remember it. Most end of open workouts involved some type of thruster. This was no different. It was 27, 21, 15, 9 calories on the rower, and thrusters, 95 for the men, 65 for the women. We watched, Matt Fraser go head to head with, was that Alex Anderson, I think, back in the day. And they 519 and 530 something. And to watch them roll around on the floor afterwards, you knew, oh boy, I remember this one. My time was obviously nowhere near that, but it hurt. I'm still feeling the pain. I chose to break the thrusters up. I just know myself as an athlete, my capacity. I think you did not. Is that right? You did not break
Correct.
the thrusters up, and that hats off there. It was the easiest one to set up, and I think the easiest one to film. There was less time we spent goofing around trying to figure out where everything should be and where should everybody be standing. It was simple, it was sharp, it was effective, and I'm glad it was a way that we finished that way rather than finishing with event 3, which was just that slog of almost 20 minutes of So this was a good way to end the qualifier, I believe.
I agree. Waking up Sunday morning, I had that dread in the pit of my stomach, just a deep sense of, oh God, I have to do this today. The deadline is looming. I can't not do it. I have to do it. And I remember doing it in 2015. I was 13 or 14 months into CrossFit. I recorded all of my open workouts, in case HQ wanted me to submit a video at the time for qualification. I took it all. I took it so seriously, even on the second year. It was so I did release a YouTube video today that has the workouts side by side, 2015 and 2023, which it's super entertaining for me, and I thought I would share that with the world to see, an old guy going up against another older guy, much older version of myself. This workout, I remember it being terrible. I remember writhing on the ground back in the day, just being in so much pain. And then Sunday morning, I'm at Mayhem watching Rich Froning do it again, and his dread was evident and clear, and he did it. I know exactly what his time was from the first time because I watched it the night before on YouTube, so I saw him do it again. I saw him have a very similar post-workout response in his body. It was really an honor to be able to be there and to give him a high five after the fact. Like, I get to give Rich Froning a high five after this workout. This is such a legacy right there, which was really, really special. By the way, as a side note, I was teasing him a little bit through the weekend as he was a rookie as a Masters competitor. This was his rookie year as a Masters.
Experience on
so welcome
in quarterfinals.
welcome to the age groups, Mr. Froning. So we had some fun with that. But then I see him do it, and I'm next. I'm in the next heat. It's time to just get on there and go. And I warmed up really well. I had that deep sense of concern about how this was going to feel, and it wasn't as bad. The painting that I had in my head, the picture I had, the absolute atomic disaster of that I felt like I was going to feel. It was really hard, but I laid on the ground. I didn't even bother trying to get up. There's no reason to recover. I just laid there and then just rolled over to my stomach, and I think there's 4 or 5 of us just laying there for about 15 minutes just chatting, and then packed up, uploaded videos, and we were done. But I did approach the workout from 2 perspectives. I thought I certainly could have dropped the barbell, or I can rest a bar overhead and actually find a little bit of recovery. So what I chose to do mentally in this workout is play a mental game with myself. And it was 27 calories on the rower. That's that. Get off. And I'm going to go 10, 9, 8 on the thrusters. And on the 10th thruster, I'm going to give myself 1 breath. So I held it overhead, took a breath, and then I did 9 thrusters, took a breath, and I did 8 thrusters, dropped it, got on the rower. I did the same thing on the set of 21, which is an 8-7-6 count. And again, if we were to break up something, I really like the descending rep scheme of 8-7-6. Anytime I can break something up like that, but I allowed myself a 1-second pause overhead to take 1 breath, and it gave me something to look forward to in every set. And on the 15, I had a temptation to go all 15, but I was dying. So I did take a breath at 8. I think I went all the way till 9 and took the breath, and then I did 6. And it's just this mental game that gave me the capacity to hang in there and push my way through. Mini goals through that workout kept that barbell in my hands. And it cost me, 2 seconds on the first set, or 2 seconds on the second set, 1 second on the set of 15s, and on the 9s, I just went for broke. So yeah, that cost me seconds, but I think I got second in the world in my age group on that workout. But for me to take a workout that had such an insurmountable mountain climb to get through it, I just felt I was severely anxious. Not severely, but I was very anxious. I'll say I was very anxious heading into it. But when I put that plan together in my head with these mini goals, it allowed my brain to have some target to go after. And that's not a strategy that's going to work for everyone, because it is a capacity issue, and it makes sense to stay within your capacity. I knew that I had the capacity to do these. I'm good at thrusters. I've got the capacity for 72 thrusters or however many it was. But it worked. It worked. I
Your
finished. Yeah.
breaks were, as you said, just a second or two, or so for 2 seconds on the set of 27, as opposed to I broke it 3 times, but I dropped the bar, and so what is that? You can go back and do the math. I can count that on the video. How many? That's 20 seconds between, or something like that, and that over.
Right.
Yeah, our row times
1,000,
were
2,
probably all
1,000.
not that different overall.
Right.
I was holding. I actually was off after 27 calories a lot faster than we all thought we were going to be. Again, I was chasing two fast fit guys, so I was like, oh, okay. But I had to. Now I know you put your video side by side. You're 8 years ago. And yesterday, I ended up tying myself down to the second, if you can believe that.
That's amazing.
I don't know what to think of myself. That's ridiculous. Either a steady state or something like that, or I've not gotten 1 second fast than I did back in.
Well, you've gotten 8 years older
slower.
and not 1 second slower.
Glass half full.
So we could say it that
but
way.
I'll also say I just looked.
Yep.
You're 2015 up. You were 1 second faster than me, both instances. You were 9:05. Oh my goodness. Oh, yeah. I got to go back to the drawing board. Oh heck. Oh well. Hey, that was fun. It was a the legs didn't feel as bad yesterday as they certainly do today, and I think that's always the case. So sure. It was a good weekend overall. It's fun to be able to compete.
Yep.
I'm glad that we were able to share that with so many friends around the community at Mayhem, at Black Flag Athletics, and then with texts back and forth to the men and women that we share this experience with. It was truly a rewarding weekend. It had its ups and downs, believe me.
Sure did, and it was really enjoyable to share that experience with all the Masters athletes that registered and did it, and those that didn't register and still did the work just to see what the tests would be like. So congratulations to everyone that did that. Yeah, that we've earned a couple of rest days or light movement days, which is really nice. For those of us that are moving on, and again, nothing's final, but the semifinals are what is next on the calendar for Masters athletes here. And registration will start on April 17th with all of the video review done and finalized by April 14th. We can finish that registration by April 28th. Like last year, they're going to release the workouts early. So April 24th is a Monday, I believe, and the workouts and the floor plans will be released at 2 p.m. Central Time, noon Pacific. That'll be fun. We'll definitely have an episode around that time. We'll have episodes between now and then, but we'll have the workouts and the floor plans in front of us to be able to do our podcast that week prior to starting this thing. So the workouts are released, and I imagine they don't have this detail in here, but it says that the score submission window opens April 28th at 2 p.m. I imagine they'll give us that password. It's similar to what they did last year. They released a verbal password you had to say in the video or write it down. So we can actually we could try the workouts earlier in the week, or we could practice the movements, which is just a great way to do it. I love that system. We've got the submission window between Thursday the 28th, Friday the 29th. Then the scores will be revealed that afternoon. That's for workouts 1 and 2. Workouts 3 and 4 go from April 29th to April 30th. And that's that. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 workouts according to the website right now. There may be 5 scores, but there's 4 workouts. And we're going to do this again very, very, very soon. At least 30, the top 30 in each one of these age groups will be doing another round of qualification. All the pressure.
So we'll see.
How is your confidence? Just on a just stepping back, thinking about before we go into our tips of the week, as you finish quarterfinals, where's your confidence? What did the quarterfinals do for you momentum wise as you potentially and likely move towards semifinals?
Still coming together with my thoughts on that, to be honest with you. I knew certainly it's going to be a difficult year. They always are. They didn't throw anything at me this past weekend that I wasn't able to complete. It was a matter of how fast could I get it done? And I think that might be, if I'm fortunate enough to be able to compete in semis, if the videos get validated and we move on, that's something that I'll still be trying to address. And again, I'm not worried about the other, if we get there, the other 29 men that'll be up against. It's going to be how much can I, where is my capacity, and, how much can I push? Because, really this is for everything to advance to the next stage. Unless you throw a super heavy clean and jerk like they did at the individual quarterfinals, which I just don't have the capacity to do that, which a lot of men my age wouldn't. There aren't things that stop me dead in my tracks. It's just a matter of getting the work done. So, always something to work on in this sport. We've talked about this in past episodes too. This next 4 weeks are no different. How about you?
That's correct. It's the next 4 weeks are a process of staying safe, staying healthy, practicing movements, perfecting things as much as I can. I'm not going to get tremendously stronger, so it's not a time to do some quick strength cycle to get stronger or faster, but it will be maintaining a high level of fitness with the idea of peaking at semifinals again. It's the games. This is it. This is our qualifier, and it's always a super high stress time thinking between now and semifinals about staying healthy, staying injury free, taking care of myself, managing sleep, nutrition, all of the things so that when semifinals come, I'm ready. And I'm looking good in quarterfinals now. Again, nothing is official. And that gives me a bump in confidence. Going into this age group, this is my 3rd year in this age group, and every year I'm going to be pressed by this upcoming batch of younger athletes that come into the age group, and that creates more pressure. And I like pressure, but it doesn't make me less nervous. So I'm nervous, and I will look to just continually do what I do really well, which is train hard, be consistent, and ideally just stay healthy and injury-free so that by the end of the month, I'd love to punch a ticket. It'd be awesome. And I'm going either way. I already have an RV site booked at the game. So I'm either going as a competitor or I'm going as a fan. Either way, I'm there and I'm going to have a great time. But I prefer to be a competitor. So, it's just like you. I think there's just this careful consideration of, yes, I hope I could get there. I hope I've got what it takes. And there's things that we can control, which is in our training, all of that. Things we can't control, which is what gets released on April 24th. We won't know until then. And then that entire week, we should just block it off. There's no way I can do anything else that week.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
No. I mean, not really. There's plenty of things to do.
3 weeks from today.
Let's
from the recording. That's hard to believe.
Oh, my God. 3 weeks. That is just so fast. Okay. Picks of the week. Rick, I think I went last. I don't know who went first last time, but I'm going to let you go first this time, even though we know what they are. Go ahead.
And that's because you updated your part of the sheet before I did, but we had the exact same. I think we've alluded to how sore our legs are throughout this episode so far. And so my pick of the week is the product by Rapid Reboot, which is a rival to Normatec. So we'll let somebody say something about Normatec here in a minute. But I had the Rapid Reboot. I only own the legs part of the system, and I had those on after each night and after each day of competition, and I will put them on again tonight just for some relief. I think they travel with me wherever I go, and anytime I'm competing, they're invaluable. And I think either brand you can't go wrong with. So it's funny we have the same idea, but I think it's out of necessity this week.
It is. Yep, I will second that. So you use the Rapid Reboot system. I use the Normatec compression system. They are very similar in their technology and in what they do and how good they feel from a recovery standpoint, and probably very similar in their efficacy. So the Normatec compression system, I own the legs, the hips, the shoulders, and honestly, I only use the legs. That's the thing I go to, and I spent hours in those things this weekend, hours and hours on Friday night. Even after the box jumps in the clean, the Normatec was key, essential ingredients right there. And then after the shuttle runs, wow, I wanted to get into the Normatec immediately and flush out those legs. And even yesterday, it was all said and done, and I didn't even want to walk to go get the Normatec, but I knew that they would provide some recovery. But yep, the Normatec and the Rapid Reboot system, if you haven't tried them, here was the thing. I didn't try them for years, Rick, years and years and years. And then finally a friend of mine was like, well, I'll just borrow mine for a week. And I was like, I knew if I tried them, I would like them. I just knew it. And I tried them, and within 10 minutes of trying those things on, I had ordered my pair online, which is a little insane, but they really are a part of the toolkit, so highly recommended. I think you recommend it as much as I know that at the games last year, every night of competition, you would come over to the RV, we'd kick our feet up, and we would have compression pants on. It was great.
That's the recovery pants. That's how you share a night. That's ridiculous. Yep. But it's what you do for recovery, and we know everybody has a different way of recovering, whether it's having a PT person on call, which I don't, but you watch those videos, and certainly the individual athletes do. But it just shows you how important recovery is, to be able to go back out the next day without that residual soreness that we're all feeling, and especially as we get older. I tell you, it's tremendous. If you can recover faster than your competitors, I think that's a great advantage.
Yeah, it is oftentimes the things we do outside of the gym that have the biggest impact on what the adaptations that happen in the gym. Well, Rick, thank you. What a fun episode to do. We could talk about the quarterfinals forever, but quickly and soon enough, we'll be talking about semifinals. We'll have a couple of episodes between now and then, which I'm also very excited about. Until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast. If you found this episode to be helpful, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment, like many of you have already done, and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older.